welcome to the stage your Khanna political director, Elizabeth Cavalieri.
Hi. Am I on? There we go. Now I'm on. Hi, everyone. How are we feeling? Thank you for being out here today, especially in the sunshine. I see most of you have found some shade. I'm so happy that you're here. Ro is so happy that you're here. We are so excited to kick off the Billionaires Over Benefits, excuse me, tour. Billionaires, Benefits Over Billionaires. There we go. We were so excited to kick off this morning in Bakersfield, and we're so happy to be here with you in Norco. We couldn't have done this tour without the nearly 30 national and grassroots partners that we've had from across the country and right here on the front lines. And so can we give a big round of applause for our partners? Okay. Just a couple housekeeping items. We are going to have a couple speakers, and then afterwards we will have a Q&A section that's pretty long. We have some microphones on either side of the stage, so if you have a question, you should feel free to come up and queue up, stand in line, and Ro will make sure to take all the questions he can. We have a lot of time budgeted, and then we'll round things out. Okay, first up, we have an in-home service provider, my new friend, Larry Waterman with United Domestic Workers. Can everyone give Larry a big round of applause?
Hello there. Thank you for coming. My name is Larry Waterman, and I'm with UDW, United Domestic Workers. I'm a 74-year-old father of two daughters, two adult daughters. Sarah's 26 and Hannah's 25. Both of my daughters are disabled. And it's taken all my time and dedication as a single father to make sure they get what they need. But I couldn't do it by myself. It comes with the help of Medicaid, Medicare, Medi-Cal. To give you an idea of what my daughters have gone through, my daughter, Hannah, she's got what is known as spinal muscular atrophy. It's a form of muscular dystrophy and related to ALS. At 11 years old, they put rods in her spine, and she went through a lot, so I gave her the nickname Nails, because she's as tough as nails. And later on, amongst other things, she had a reservoir put into her back, and it caused her to get bacterial spinal meningitis when she was 17. After that, 3 months later, she had a stroke. My other daughter, she's bipolar. She's got what is known as PDD, pervasive developmental disorder. It's on the spectrum, on the autism spectrum, and she's ADHD. And having been in the mental health facility in a period of 8 years, she was in there 40 times. It's 5 times a year. Do you have any idea what the costs would be if it was put on any one of us to take care of those things? Yeah. To add to that, I had 1/3 of my pancreas removed, along with my gallbladder and some of my intestines, and they reattached me. And then after that, I got strep from the antibiotics. I had open heart surgery 6 months later to replace the aorta valve in my heart. Again, I would be on the street. If it wasn't for the state of California, if it wasn't for Medi-Cal. But the thing to remember, and don't forget, this could happen to any one of you. Not just me. You're right. A lot of them don't care, but there are those that do. There are people that do care. I don't want to sell anybody short. But we have to stand up for what's right. In the Constitution says the government is for the welfare of the people, not for the billionaires. And what is welfare? Welfare is your health, it's your safety, and it's for your prosperity. And all those people that take an oath to the Constitution, if they're not willing to keep their oath, get them out! Get them out, right? So I want you to take the energy that you get here and take it with you. Don't leave it in this amphitheater when you leave. Take it with you out on the street. It's time we take it back. Just as a reminder, I was an activist back in the 60s. And it's time to bring that activism back, because that's when we made the changes happen. So again, I just want to thank everybody for taking the time to be here today. And we look forward to seeing you at more events. Thank you.
Thank you, Larry. Everyone give him another big round of applause. Okay, next up. Many of you here, I'm sure, know this woman. Jane Kim is the California State Director for Working Families Party. Jane has spent her career serving Californian working families. As a San Francisco supervisor, she led the way to make community college tuition free for all San Franciscans. She won a citywide $15 minimum wage and secured full-time nurses for homeless shelters in the city. She fought tirelessly for affordable housing, authored and passed powerful tenant protections, and also served as the California political director for Bernie Sanders' 2020 presidential campaign. Everyone, please welcome Jane Kim.
Hello. Hello, Inland Empire. So my name is Jane Kim, and Elizabeth said, I am the California Director of Working Families Party here in this great state. And I just want to give a big shout out to SCIU 2015, who are taking care of the most vulnerable in our community. We are here to recruit you. Join us in electing people-powered candidates who will represent all of us and not just the billionaires. And by the way, we all know that resisting Trump isn't enough. That's not the end game, because long before he walked into the Oval Office, our immigration system was in shambles. Long before he walked into the office, homelessness was a crisis on our streets, and mass evictions were being disproportionately carried out against our immigrants, our seniors, single-family mothers. And before he walked into that office, policies were literally assaulting our bodies and the economic means of women, people of color, LGBTQ folks, and poor people every day. Here in California, a super blue state, long before Trump, we spent the last 40 years building 23 state prisons and only 1 UC and 3 CSUs, determining the future of young Californians for generations. In 1990, California made up 81% of each student's tuition. By 1998, by 2011, the state's share had declined to 54%. Meanwhile, UC enrollment grew 45%, and CSU enrollment grew 25%. And many of you know this because it's your friends, it's your neighbors, but we now have a study that shows that 1 out of every 10 CSU student has experienced homelessness while attending school, and 1 out of 5 experienced food insecurity. And over the last 40 years, 50% of this nation has seen their wages stagnate, while the top 1%'s income has tripled, and the top 0.1% has gone up 20 times. And in the meantime, the cost of everything has gone up. Healthcare, food, housing, transportation. 60% of us here are living paycheck to paycheck. So this is not just about resisting Trump. It's about leading an agenda for the people and by the people. Because it's not just the Republicans, it's some of our Democrats too that have proven to be a partner of the elite and the wealthy and not a counterweight. So we need to actually come to our folks with a vision, because 9 million people stayed home and didn't vote at all between 2020 and 2024. We need to get people to come out because they are going to be voting for themselves, their parents, their grandparents, their children, their nephews, their daughters, by leading with an agenda for Medicare for all. Leading an agenda for tuition-free public college. Leading an agenda for affordable housing. And in the wealthiest country in the world, 1 job should be enough. Now, some of the wealthiest in our nation are waging war against our country. And they have been for decades. This isn't the first year that a billionaire has come into our office like Elon Musk. They've been spending billions of dollars discrediting governance and vilifying government. And we have to ask ourselves the question, do the billionaires do this for the good of the country? Or do they do this to protect their profits? Because who benefits from a broken government? Broken government means less protections for hardworking Americans who are underpaid by the billionaire corporations, like Amazon next door. A broken government means less protections for our water, for clean air, and a broken government means lower taxes for the wealthy and the corporations. No safety net. And right now, those billionaire corporations, they're giving back less than the average hardworking American in this room today. So government, now we all have been broken by government too. So it doesn't mean that government isn't dysfunctional, but the response should be to repair this important institution, not discard it. Government is not the problem, it is the prize that we need to all fight for. And together, I believe that we can do extraordinary things. We want you to join Working Families Party. We want you to support leaders like Congressman Khanna, who is fighting for everyday Americans. And I know it's possible. I spent 12 years as a young elected official in San Francisco. And with organizing, with support, we passed the strongest minimum wage ordinance in the country at the time. We made childcare affordable for middle class and working class families. And in 2016, we made San Francisco the only city in the nation at the time to make community college free for all of our residents. We live in one of the wealthiest states. We live in the wealthiest state, in the wealthiest country. We represent 1 out of every 8 Americans. We can actually introduce and pass policies that other localities and states can't even fantasize about. But we can only do that if we organize together and we vote together. Thank you all very much for being here today.
Thank you, Jane. Okay, next up are two guys that don't need an introduction, but here's one anyway. Jon Favreau served as Barack Obama's head speechwriter from 2005 to 2013, a role that was far more senior and influential than Jon Lovitz. In 2017, he co-founded, along with Tommy Vitor, Crooked Media, where he's a co-host of Pod Save America, host of Offline with Jon Favreau, and host of The Wilderness. His first book, Democracy or Else, which he co-authored alongside his Crooked Media co-founders, is now a New York Times bestseller. And Tommy Vitor, our other co-founder of Crooked Media, is the co-host of Pod Save America, as well as host of the foreign policy-focused Pod Save the World. Together, they authored Democracy or Else. Please welcome Jon Favreau and Tommy Vitor from Pod Save America and Vote Save America.
Thank you. Wow. There are way more people here than I expected. No offense, Ro, but I thought we were showing up to like 20 people in a garage. This is unbelievable. So we were walking around beforehand talking to folks about why they came out tonight. You know, why would you come see a member of Congress speak in your district who does not represent you? And one woman said to me, how the hell am I supposed to meet Ken Calvert? He doesn't leave the house. I'm not a billionaire Republican donor. I'm not a special interest group. How am I supposed to meet my member of Congress? I said, fair point. And then I asked another woman, why did you want to come see Ro? And she said, because he shows up. He cares. He's listening. And I just think showing up is so important in this moment, because I think everyone here is probably having some version of the same conversation. Why do things feel so bad this time? Why is there no energy? Where are the protests? Where are the marches? Where are the people? Where's the action? I feel it too. I know members of Congress like Ro feel it too, and I think what I want people to come away feeling is this is the answer. It is people coming together, sharing their stories, getting back to first principles, talking about the things that matters, because it's going to be a minute before we all get to make our voices heard in the next election. But crowds like this send a message to Ken Calvert and Republicans in Washington that people are angry and they are fired up. And they are not going to sit around and be quiet while this administration sends innocent people who happen to have tattoos with no judge, no jury, to rot in hell in a gulag in El Salvador? That's not America. We're not going to sit around and let Donald Trump give Elon Musk a tax cut that he pays for by cutting Medicare, Medicaid, and Social Security. And so we know the things we care about, we know what we're fighting for, and there's not going to be one answer or solution to a problem like Donald Trump. The solution is going to be millions of people like you getting together, showing up, getting each other's backs, fighting back. And so thank you for being here. It is inspiring. Action gets rid of anxiety. So thank you.
So for 8 years, the two of us were lucky enough to work for Barack Obama for a living. And in the last 8 years, the two of us have been unlucky enough to talk about Donald Trump for a living. In all that time and all that we've been through, wars, recessions, pandemics, insurrections, I do not think I have ever been more worried about what's happening to the country and angrier at the people who are running it. You have a congressman in Ken Calvert who will not show his face, who will not answer your questions because he won't answer your questions because he thinks he only answers to Donald Trump. And Nearly every Republican member of Congress is like that now. They are the same way. They are basically White House staff at this point. We have judges who, when they rule against the administration, it doesn't matter if they're Democratic appointees or Republican appointees, if they rule against the administration, they are now being threatened with impeachment and worse. We have corporate media outlets who are paying Donald Trump to settle lawsuits that they would have won anyway. They could have won. We have lawyers who are offering Donald Trump free legal services so that he doesn't target them and ban them from walking into federal courthouses. We have colleges right now that are willing to hire more police officers to arrest more protesters so that Donald Trump doesn't take away their federal funding. The guardrails are gone now. And you know what? The only check left on Donald Trump is us. We are it. The people who are willing on a Sunday to event like this and be together and drive however far to make sure that we're together and fight back. People who are, putting empty chair town halls outside Ken Calvert's office. I know Indivisible's been doing that, which is awesome. People who are just willing to pay attention, to try to get your friends to pay attention, to try to sound the alarm in every way you can. We are the only check left, but you know what? We have a lot of power. We have more power than we think. But we have to use it. We have to use it. If we believe what we say, that this is an emergency, we have to act like it. If we believe this is an emergency, then resistance is not enough. We need to build an opposition movement that offers people an alternative. And that also means that we can't be afraid to speak out. We can't be afraid to speak out for people who are being hurt by this government, even if we don't know them. We can't be afraid of new ideas or uncomfortable conversations, and we can't be afraid of building a tent that's big enough to take this country back from the low-rent oligarchs who are trying to steal it. And you know what? We are very lucky here in California to have a leader who is willing to do that, who is willing to fight in Khanna. Khanna is willing to go anywhere and talk to anyone and to try to build bridges and to build that tent and to build a coalition that can win. And he does it with thoughtfulness and kindness, and we are so lucky to have him, since your congressman wouldn't come. And so it is a pleasure to introduce a leader in the Democratic Party, Khanna.
Look, let me say this. As I was shaking hands out there, and people were kind enough to say, thank you, Ro, but you know what the truth is? On behalf of Democrats in Congress, thank you, Norco. You are the patriots. Thank you for coming out. Where did John and Tommy go? Look, Barack Obama was a pretty special person, but you saw why he gave such great speeches. He had the help of John, and you saw why he was for peace in the world and human rights, because he had the help of Tommy. Now, I know a lot of people who've worked for a lot of presidents, and let me tell you, some of them, they go on the speaking circuit afterwards. They get $30,000, $40,000 a pop. Others, they go join some fancy firms. No, nothing against them, but that's what they do. You know what I admire about John and Tommy? Instead of saying, okay, I've worked for the greatest president in history, I'm gonna go make some money, they're out here fighting with all of us. Let's give them a round of applause. Rolling up their sleeves. And I want to thank Jane Kim. Isn't she fantastic, Jane? Jane has always pushed the envelope to talk about the issues that matter to the working and middle class before it became fashionable, and she is a real leader in this day. Thank you, Jane. And Larry, Larry, thank you for sharing your story. Look, it's not easy. People just think, okay, you're going to get up here and talk about your health issues and your daughter's health issues. Those are really private things. Most people don't like to share that. Larry, the fact that you're sharing that with family here, or your extended family, I appreciate that. That's what it's going to take in this country. Let's give Larry a round of applause. Gosh, you must be so proud of your daughters. Now look, I think it's pretty simple. In America, you're not supposed to hide as a leader from people. And that's why I'm here, just to listen to folks and to give voice to folks. I mean, your congressman, where's the chicken? Stand up. Your congressman, it's not just that he hasn't shown up for the last few months, he hasn't shown up for the last few years. And my question is, I understand why he doesn't want to show up. It's kind of hard to justify what they're doing. It's hard to justify what they're doing. $880 billion of cuts in Medicaid. They think this is a game. They think it's politics. But what they don't understand, I was so moved. I was shaking hands, and two people, they started crying. They started crying, and they gave me a hug. And they said, "Ro, help us." And I said, I want to help, but it's going to take all of us. But what they're doing is cutting health care for people's families, people who need it, people who have elderly parents, taking away the health care for them. There was someone who said that they have an 11-year-old and a 9-year-old who are on special needs education, and they're taking away the funding for special needs education by cutting the Department of Education. This is not a game. This is not about politics. I've said before, I'd rather Ken Calvert do the right thing to save Medicaid, to save education, than come here for politics. My appeal to Ken Calvert is show up in your district next weekend. Talk to folks. You got 1,000 people almost here. If 1,000 people were in my district upset about something, I'd want to know what they were upset about. I'm going to say two more things, because then I want to really give this forum over to you and to hear your questions and your stories. Someone asked me today, do I still have hope about our democracy? I was thinking about that as I heard Tommy and John, because no leader has given me more hope than Obama. And I thought about it, I thought about it. And I'm coming from Bakersfield, where we had 1,000 people. And then today in Norco, and Tommy's right, most people in Norco don't know who I am. 1,000 people showing up. You know what? The grassroots mobilization that's taking place around our country and around our state by angry and caring Americans gives me more hope for our democracy than ever. That is what is going to be a wake-up call for the billionaires. What they're doing is nothing new. And I'm going to open it up. Look, it's nothing new. We've been through this story before. In the 1920s, in the Gilded Age, there were a lot of people who had a lot of money. And you know what they thought? They thought they were moving America forward. They were building the televisions and the radios and the cars. And there was a Secretary of Treasury. His name was Andrew Mellon. And he was the Elon Musk of his day. And he told Herbert Hoover, he said, liquidate it all, liquidate government, liquidate the farms, liquidate labor, liquidate the stocks, because people are lazy. That's what they believed. And that they need hardworking people to take over. You know what? He didn't just hurt the working class. He didn't just hurt the middle class. He destroyed the economy with the Great Depression. And it took FDR to rebuild it, because FDR understood that we actually are powered in this country by ordinary people. That's what they're doing. You know, I know these folks. I represent Silicon Valley. I admit it still. You know, I still can talk about it. And there's a lot that Silicon Valley has done that is terrific in terms of advancing technology. But you know what? Some of these folks have got it in their head that they're better than the rest of us, that they somehow are the ones advancing America. You know what? It's not them who are advancing America. It's people like Larry and their families who build America. And what they are doing by cutting Medicaid, by firing veterans, by cutting education is destroying the working and middle class. It's destroying the economy. It's destroying the economy. Since December to now, the economy has started to slow. Inflation, Trump was supposed to fix it. Inflation is up. You know, what they are doing is actually devastating the economy. Now, the last point before we have questions. How many people here are veterans? Can you stand or raise your hand? Let's give them a round of applause. Thank you for your service. We make a simple promise in this country to veterans. If you wear the uniform, go out and serve in Iraq and Afghanistan, then when you come back, we will honor you and take care of you. Here's what offends me about Trump and Musk's and Vance's broken promises. Donald Trump has never worn the nation's uniform. Elon Musk has never worn the nation's uniform. How dare they think that they are qualified to tell our veterans that our veterans are unqualified? They're the last people who have the right to fire our veterans. 1/3 of federal employees are veterans. They're taking care of our parks. They're taking care of other veterans. They're helping provide health care. These are the people that Musk and Trump are firing without a plan. And it's time that we speak up. Let me end with this point. I told you I represent Silicon Valley and we do a lot of virtual things. But one thing you deserve is not having virtual representation in Congress. You shouldn't have to have people parading in from other districts. It's time that you had your own representation in Congress, and I am very, very grateful to all of you for turning out, grateful to our partners, grateful to people like Brandon Riker, who has brought a lot of volunteers, and grateful to each one of you for being patriots. Let's begin the town hall, because we want to really hear from you and what's on your mind. Thank you.
We have microphones on either side of the stage if folks want to come up and ask their questions.
Don't be shy. I'm sorry? Ma'am.
Hi. I'd like to know, my husband is buried at the National Cemetery, and I'm kind of worried about what's going to happen with the employees that are working out there.
Well, ma'am, first of all, thank you to your family and your late husband for their sacrifices. We don't know what is happening, is the honest truth, with these employees. I mean, they've literally put Musk in charge of DOGE, where he gets to fire whoever he thinks should be fired. But I'll tell you what we're doing. We need to make sure that we don't give a dollar to the Republicans in their budgets before they make a commitment to stop firing veterans and stop firing agencies. And that's why the House Democrats voted no on the funding resolution. Some of our senators on the other side unfortunately let us down. But the reality is that we need to mobilize like we're doing here in every red district in the country. People say, well, what can we do? What can we do? I'll give you a very simple thing. You're already doing it. If we 20 to 25 Republican districts and we start to mobilize and we start to organize and tell people what's going on with our veterans, tell people that folks are being fired who look after people who've been buried at Arlington, then common sense is going to prevail in these districts. You already had one Republican, I don't know if anyone saw it in Utah, said, you know, I'm a little bit concerned about Donald Trump's authoritarian tendencies. I said, you think? You think? We only need 3. We only need 3. What you're doing is the most important thing. We need to organize in every red district in this country. Thank you, ma'am. Yes.
Hi, can you hear me?
I can. Tall.
Dave Rowe, I want to thank you very much. I am Major Laura Meeks, retired U.S. Air Force.
Thank you for your service, Major.
I spent 20 years at the end of the runway guarding our country.
Thank you.
And my hope is, as a transgender veteran, I would like you to take back the message that we are human and that we deserve our rights and our money.
Well, thank you for coming here. Thank you for your service. Thank you for your courage in speaking out. Let's give our Major a round of applause. Look, there's some people in my party who think we should just talk about the price of eggs and the price of groceries and inflation, and we should. But you know what I think really moves people in this country? When you talk about our values. We cannot throw the trans community under the bus. We cannot throw immigrants under the bus. We cannot be afraid to stand for due process, even if it's politically not expedient. If they come after the trans community today, they're going to come after immigrants tomorrow. They're going to come after the LGBTQ community next, and then women and the black community and all of us. Let's have the courage of our values. Here's what I know. Look, I grew up in Bucks County, Pennsylvania, an Indian American of Hindu faith. My parents came here as immigrants. This is a decent country. We should have the courage to make the argument that we don't bully in America, we don't discriminate in America, that we're not going to run away from our vision, we're going to run towards our vision, and that's how we're going to win back this country. Thank you for your courage.
Hi, Ro. I lived in the Bay Area for 20 years, moved down here to go to grad school. During the pandemic, I volunteered in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and Atlanta, Georgia.
Thank you.
For Souls to the Polls and the New Georgia Project, and I would ask people, why are you a voter? And I would get a single answer. VA benefits, because my ancestors couldn't vote. Or here, Rick, I met today, he said he's scared of losing his benefits. My question to you is, why are you a congressman?
Well, that's a deep question. My family asks me that all the time. You know, look, my politics come from my grandfather. He spent 4 years in jail as part of Gandhi's independence movement. And that movement inspired Dr. King. It inspired John Lewis, who were beaten on the Edmund Pettus Bridge, John Lewis was, that leads to the 1965 reform. If that hadn't passed, my parents wouldn't have been able to come from India. I was born in Philadelphia in 1976, our bicentenary. My wife always tells me I had nothing to do with that, but I did, was born on our bicentenary. And I grew up in a middle-class family where I had public education, and I had to take out a lot of loans for school, but I didn't have to worry about health care. And at the age of 40, this country elected me to represent arguably one of the most economically powerful districts in the world. And today, what I see is all of the sacrifices that people like my grandfather made at risk. You see, we can go in two different directions in this country since Obama's election. On the one hand, we've had a young generation, people like AOC and Maxwell Frost and Delia Ramirez and Jasmine Crockett getting elected. On the one hand, we've seen an African-American, Indian-American woman get 48% across the country in places like Pennsylvania. And on the other hand, we have forces of fear, forces saying we don't want to be part of the world. We don't want to be part of an inclusive society. We're going to be against trans folks. We're going to be against people of different faiths and different backgrounds. We are at a crossroads in this country. And gosh damn it, I am not going to let the sacrifices people like my grandfather made go in vain. We are going to fight and get to the multiracial democracy that we deserve. And look, we are close to that. We are close to that. I know it seems far, but we're a few percent away. If we mobilize, if we organize, if we look at the opportunity to do what you're doing across this country, we're going to get there. And this kind of turnout gives me hope that we're going to get there.
First of all, thank you for showing up. I'm glad you showed up when
Thank you for showing up. I won't hold your Dodgers fan thing against you.
If you're a Giants fan, you're in the wrong place.
Phillies fan.
But on to my question. My name is Riyad Cooper.
Yeah.
I am a combat veteran. I'm disabled.
Thank you for your service.
I deployed to Afghanistan, Iraq, to the Philippines. I spent the last 7 years in special operations. And one of my major questions mostly concerns the Democratic Party. I've been a lifelong Democrat since I've been able to vote. I grew up in Texas. And I want to know why in the world the Democratic Party hasn't fought yet. You see, my problem is I'm black, okay? And being black, we don't get the option to blend into crowds. We don't get the option to hide. We don't get the option to run away from our problems. Because we're black, we have to face everything every day. And when it comes to standing up for who we are and what we believe in, that means we have to use the levers of power that are available to us to make our will known. Why have the Democrats let things like the spending bill pass? Why have Democrats let things like any type of law that Donald Trump wants to pass? When Barack Obama was elected president, a room full of Republicans sat down and they said that they would not let him pass a thing. Why in the world has our Democratic leaders like Chuck Schumer allowed anything to be passed? Why have we elected Donald Trump? Why have we let Donald Trump elect a dog catcher? I'm sorry, but you're the only Democrat standing here, so you're the only person I got to ask. Thank you.
Well, I think you should run for office. I think that was pretty good. We need, look, the old guard needs to go. The old guard needs to go, this party. And I understand, I'm not black in America, but I understand what it means to be a person of color and what it means to face discrimination. And I understand the stakes for people right now. That, for people who are black or brown, for people who are on Medicaid, for people who have kids who have special needs, for veterans who rely on the veterans' benefits. They're not thinking about the next election. They want the cuts to stop tomorrow. Now, what we could have, Chuck Schumer made a huge mistake. He made a huge mistake. He never voted for that bill without concessions. But the question is, what can we do? What can we do? Because the reality was going to be a straight shooter. The reality is we don't have the White House, we don't have the Senate, we don't have the House. So we can point fingers, and I blame Schumer, but what we need to do is figure out how are we going to get past this? What are we going to do to actually stop Musk and Trump and prevent these cuts? And the only thing I can think of is to organize like we're doing here in every red district in this country so that we can get 3 Republicans to flip. But I will assure you that there are a lot of next generation Democrats who are going to stand up to Donald Trump and Musk and believe we don't cooperate with them while they're engaged in unconstitutional actions, and we will be there to fight with you. So thank you for speaking up.
Hello, Mr. Congressman Rowe. My name is April Sayre, and I'm a partner in policy with ARC, and I'm also emerging leader with Disability Voices United. And I realized that people are acting like this congressman. They're turning off when we ask them to mobilize, and they're saying that we're spreading fear. How do we combat people whose hearts are closed? They don't want to be. They're adapting the same mentality. How do we push past that and start a movement when people don't want to hear it?
Well, April, thank you for what you're doing and your disability advocacy. You know, first of all, people really need to realize this is not hyperbole. I was on CNN this morning right after Secretary McMahon, and the Secretary says, oh, they're abolishing the Department of Education. They're not cutting any of the funding. And then I went on and I said, well, there are 92 teachers on Head Start in my district who've gotten a pink slip. So the Secretary ought to visit because they are cutting the funding. It's just not true. This is not hyperbole. If we do not stop Ken Calvert from casting a decisive vote to cut Medicaid, they will cut $880 billion of Medicaid. It's going to mean hospitals in this district closed. It's going to mean many people kicked off insurance. They are going to continue to cut the Department of Education, funding for schools here, funding for kids with disabilities. We're not exaggerating. So people say, well, what can we do? Why should we mobilize? And I said that the mobilization is the only option that we have. It is the only option that we have to stop this. And what we need is members of Congress showing up to marches. Members of Congress not just giving speeches, members of Congress being part of the organizing activity in these communities. Now, folks say, look, folks say that I had a young person at the previous town hall say, you know, you keep asking us to do something, my voice doesn't make a difference. Why should I try? We're up against billions of dollars. We're up against an internet infrastructure, which the Republicans control. We're up against Donald Trump. First of all, I'll say the fact that 1,000 people are turning up shows that we can make a difference. And the second thing I'll say is that many of us have not earned the right to cynicism. Too many people have sacrificed too much in this country for us to be complacent now. The fights that people had in previous generations to get voting rights, to get civil rights, to get women's rights, to get LGBT rights were harder than the fight we have today. We have to stand up to two bullies to stand up for democracy, and we can if we mobilize like this around the country.
Mr. Khanna, my name is Vicki Dunlap. I am a retired Command Sergeant Major from the Army.
Thank you for your service.
I was a nurse for 30 years. My last deployment was to Iraq.
Wow.
I was brought to tears last week when I heard that this country's president had removed memorials for the 666 and Colin Powell. Those are my heroes. Those are the ones that I look to say, yes, I can. Then I look and see and hear how the Democratic Party can't get its it together. It's not so much, well, it is so much the Republicans, but there's so much infighting that they are allowing Ump and his cohorts to continue to drive divisions between all of us. And while it's true that we can come here as one body, what are our representatives and you're not my representative. He's missing in action, MIA. What are you guys doing in Congress to unite and bring us together as a people in this country? Why are our representatives allowing this continued divisiveness? And it starts in Washington. And they know if they can control Washington and the Democratic Party and snuff you out to nothing, the rest of us ain't got a chance in hell. A snowball's chance in hell.
Man, thank you. Thank you for your service. It was outrageous what Donald Trump did in removing those memorials, but he will learn he cannot remove that history from our hearts as citizens. We all need to fight to restore that. Let me say this about the Democratic Party. This is not the time. I mean, I have huge disappointment in Chuck Schumer. I have called for a new generation of leadership, but let me tell you something. This is not the time. This is not the time for us to just be fighting, as you pointed out, amongst ourselves. We've got a far bigger challenge. We've got a far bigger challenge. And that challenge is that you've got a president surrounded with J.D. Vance and Elon Musk who are basically defying judges. You know, the Vice President J.D. Vance says that when the Supreme Court rules, the president should say, you made your ruling, now try to enforce it. He's telling the president to defy the Supreme Court. You've got the Vice President J.D. Vance is saying that the universities are the enemy of the people. I mean, we have people in power right now who are trying to take away the very rights that you fought to defend. And the only way that we are going to be able to defeat them is to unify as a people behind a Democratic Party and to remember not our worst, but our best. To remember a Democratic Party that did secure civil rights, that did secure women's rights, that did secure LGBT rights, and to fight to make that party the vehicle of standing up for our Constitution. Look, I accept blame that the 212 Democrats in the Congress and the House of Representatives and 47 senators, we need to up our game. I'm not gonna sit here and gaslight that. But I will say this, 212 House members and 47 senators are not enough to stand up against this assault to our democracy. It's going to take millions of us, starting in places like Norco, to stand up unified, and we know from our country's history that's what succeeds.
Hi there, thanks for coming out. I agree with a lot of the things that have been said today. But obviously a lot of these ideas are sort of out of step with the large Democratic Party at large. I think it's safe to say that many of our faith in the party has never been lower at basically any point. Maybe when Mondale lost, I'm not that old. But we're talking a lot about maybe primary challengers, maybe small dollar donors, grassroots organizing. That's all great. But I'm, like people have said already, the guardrails are off. I'm not confident we're going to make it to 2028 with a normal democracy. Maybe not even 2026, God forbid. My question is, when the rubber meets the road, are you guys prepared to do what it's going to take? I mean, not ballots, but actually reaching out to different like levers of power and asking them, is your loyalty to Donald Trump or to the Constitution? You know, because it might come to that. I don't think I'm fear-mongering when I say that.
No, I don't think you're fear-mongering. I think when you have institution after institution bending the knee to Donald Trump, there's a problem. I mean, when you have a law firm where partners make $6 million a year, and then they say, well, we don't want to take a hit in revenue because we may be making $5 million a year, and we're going to agree to Donald Trump telling us who we can represent, you've got a problem in this country. When you have a major university trying to save funding and making compromises to agree to what the administration is going to dictate, you have a problem in this country. What we need to do is find the courage to stand up for our principles. But here's what I know. Here's what I know. Look, when I used to started having town halls when Joe Biden was president, it seems like a quaint time. Maybe 100 people would show up. 150 people would show up. And we'd have to email them 10 times to get people to show up to a town hall. Now you've got thousands of people showing up around this country. This country is mobilized in a way that it's never been. And my bet in America is on citizen mobilization like you and others here. And if we can do this in every district in this country, it's not that we're going to try to win in 26 or 28. It's that we're going to embarrass people like Ken Calvert and embarrass other Republicans so that they start to stand with people instead of having a loyalty to Donald Trump. Right now, they're more loyal to Donald Trump than they are to you. But look, if you guys, you don't need me. You don't need Barack Obama's speechwriters or Jane Kim. Take this and get this to 5,000 people next weekend. Build the organization. Look, I'll end on this point to your question. There are very few times in a country's history that a person, a citizen, has an opportunity to actually make a difference. To actually make a difference. In some ways, you're very unlucky because you've had this absentee congressman. In another way, you have a great opportunity. You're in one of the 20 districts where your activism, where your mobilization could literally save millions of people from their health care cut or education cut. Most people, they go through their whole lives. They're congressmen who go through their whole lives, senators who go through their whole lives. At the end of the day, they say, what did I really do? This moment, you can stand up in Norco for our democracy. You can mobilize, let's get 10,000, 20,000, 30,000 people so we take over this district and we, one vote at a time, get to the 3 votes that it's going to take to get the Republicans to find a backbone and save our democracy. That is the only way we're going to do it.
Thank you for showing up this afternoon.
Thank you.
It's been great to see you. Great to have everyone over here to everyone here just to have the same thing. And I'm just thinking, I'm seeing something that is in the same theme. Where's the party unity? This is not our first rodeo with this guy before. Sorry for the Norco pun. I mean, when Al Green got kicked out of the joint sessions of Congress speech, that hour-and-a-half hate fest for disruption, while MTG is wearing a MAGA hat in the halls of Congress, and while in the past 4 years, she and Beetlejuice Boebert have been howling monkeys during each State of the Union address, and they have not been ejected yet. Al Green gets ejected. Why didn't the left side of the House and Senate just stand up and leave? That's the part. That's party unity. That's standing up. And where was it?
Look, I have such respect for Al Green, and I will say this. I was very disappointed on the people who voted to censure him, which unfortunately included some Democrats. I said, think about it from the perspective of Al Green, 77-year-old African-American from the South who grew up during Jim Crow, who's engaged in civil disobedience as he sees it. And that was his voice, his authentic voice in how he's fighting. But here's what I believe. Each of us has to find it in our sense of how we're going to fight. It may not be the same for all of us. For me, it's saying, okay, I'm going to take the resources from Silicon Valley and organize town halls in red districts. But what we do need is for every member of Congress, every senator, every elected official to say, how are we going to fight? What is it that we can contribute to this cause? And find our voice in doing that. And that is what I'm committed to. And all of the organizations and citizens are toughening up the Democrats to realize it's not enough to just give a speech. It's not enough to just go vote. It's not enough to just go on a podcast. We got to be on the streets. We got to find our way of standing up. And that's the only way we're going to beat these folks back.
Representative Khanna, thank you so much for coming.
Thank you.
You're going to hear this a lot, but on behalf of my family, we want to thank you. So I'm new to this area. I've only been here since 2018. And when I got here, I got on the computer and let's find out who I'm represented by. What a story I read about earmarks, about prostitution. I couldn't believe it. And then the phone calls start. I'm one of those people who I got to get on the phone. I'm calling Thune, Tillis, everybody but maybe except Tuberville. I don't spend any time on him.
Thank you for your activism.
But it makes a difference. And one of the things I really wanted to ask everybody here today is if you go on Ken Calvert's, I guess it's his, I don't think it's a Facebook, I think it's his website, but he's got a 2-star rating. I would like everybody here to please help me and help ourselves. Can we drive, I don't know if we can go below a 1, but if we could get that down to at least a 1 or a half a star to send a message that when we show up here today, we mean business. And I have faith in the Democratic Party, sir.
You know, thank you. Well, thank you. There you go. There's an action item for today. But, you know, look, when I moved out to Silicon Valley, I had no money, no connections, no name, and I was really opposed to the war in Iraq, and I wanted to run for Congress. I lost terribly. But I said, what is it going to take? And I had 20 people in the living room, and that's how I started. You've got almost 1,000 people here. Let me tell you something. You get your minds together, you can defeat Ken Calvert. 1,000 people is a lot of people in a district. And you don't need Chuck Schumer, you don't need the DCCC, you don't need the Silicon Valley congressman. You can do this yourselves. You can do this yourselves. I wish when I was running for Congress, I just had 50 people like this. Honestly, you just have to beg people to come and knock doors. You get 1,000 people out there in a district, you can take it over. Take it over. And that is what is going to build the Democratic Party. I always am perplexed when people say, you know, we're really upset at the Democratic Party. What are you going to do? And they're Democrats. I said, you are the Democratic Party. You are any Democrat registered is part of the Democratic Party. And I said this, if Donald Trump could take over the Republican Party, sure, we could take over the Democratic Party to make it what we want to be. So thank you for your activism, and I endorse your call.
Hello, my name's Janine Quijano, and my husband and I grew up in Riverside, graduated from La Sierra in the 1990s. Our oldest child came out as non-binary about 4 years ago. We went through the process of name change, gender ID, and passport changes, and now with multiple executive orders coming out, we are very scared for not only our child, but for our own well-being because of the targeted attacks at transgender kids and their health care. And I just wanted everybody to know that without gender identity confirmation, my child would not be here today.
Well,
so I just want to thank you and all the supporters that I've met today and throughout.
Thank you.
We have a support group of other parents, and all of us are very scared, and we are starting to mobilize and become activists. And being here today is just a big thing for me because normally I like to hide in the corner and just watch everybody else.
Well, Jean, you got a lot of courage. Let's show Jean and her non-binary child some love. Let's show her some love. You know, you're part of a community that has your back. And I'll tell you something. I'll tell you what so angers me about what's going on in this country. See, people have legitimate reason to be upset. And the reason they are upset is because so many of our jobs went offshore. Industries went offshore. hollowed out communities. You go where I grew up in Pennsylvania, you go to Western Pennsylvania, you look at Johnstown or Farrell, no steel plants. They won World War II, no aluminum plants, no industry. And then we went in income inequality in the world from 53rd to 128th. You know, the wages didn't go up, jobs didn't go up, healthcare costs skyrocketed because of private insurance and pharma. Childcare costs skyrocketed, education costs skyrocketed. And instead of being a leader, instead of saying these policies are failing people, Donald Trump came in and said, I'm not going to do anything about it. I'm just going to blame other people. I'm going to blame trans kids. I'm going to blame Mexicans. I'm going to blame immigrants. I'm going to say they eat dogs and cats. That's what he did. And in the process, he's hurting not just the people he's targeting, he's hurting the people he's deceiving. And what we need to do as a Democratic Party, what we need to do is not respond in kind. What we need to do is say, we see the real problems in this country. And together, we're going to actually offer real solutions to those problems. And we're going to defend marginalized people because we don't believe in cruelty. But that is not why you don't have access to the American dream. The reason you don't have access to the American dream is no one has an actual vision for how we're going to get high-paying jobs in your community. No one has a vision for how we're going to raise your wages. No one has a vision for how we're going to get health care. We're going to do that. And I believe if the Democratic Party, if we do that, if we offer people real substantive hope and a plan, that they will pick that over the bigotry. How do I know that? Because time and again in this country's history, we have done that, and we're going to do that again. Thank you.
Thank you, Congressman. Thank you for coming out tonight.
Thank
Appreciate
you.
it. I'm going to kind of build on the more, I guess we would say, difficult conversation that we have to have.
You can criticize me. I'm here to take all the...
No, let's talk about it.
Yeah.
So, kind of to use a metaphor, I don't know how much of a sports background you have. Frankly, I'm not a huge
They used to
sports
say,
fan,
watch
but-
the bunt when I went up to hit, because I couldn't hit. But I was good in the field.
Same.
All right.
So, like, let's say two sports teams are playing basketball.
Yeah.
And you have a set of rules for each sport that both teams play by.
Got it.
And if two teams are playing basketball,
Yeah.
and one of the teams decides that they don't want to dribble anymore.
Yeah.
They grab the ball, they tuck it under their arm, and they run for the other side of the court.
Right.
We don't continue playing that game anymore.
Right.
And I think you guys know where I'm going with this metaphor. That team gets kicked out. They don't play anymore. We don't continue playing by those rules when one team decides that they don't want to do it anymore.
I agree completely. Look, there are two teams. You're saying one team isn't playing by the rules. Call them the Donald Trump, Elon Musk, J.D. Vance team. One of the teams, the Democrats, are playing by the rules. And you're saying don't play into their game. And I totally agree with you. But the question is, what does not playing look like? Does it mean that we start to hurl the same insults that they hurl at us? Does it mean that we start to engage in the same demonization of their voters like they demonize ours? You know, that's one option. I tend to believe that there was a time in our country where there also was a team that didn't play by the rules and another team that was playing by the rules. That was the civil rights era. That was the era of protest against the Vietnam War. And the way we overcame that is that we did not play by the same, those leaders did not play by the same rules. They set higher standard for their rules, and they engaged in what Al Green did, civil protests, with nonviolent protests, and they spoke up. And I do believe that when we organize like we're doing here, that we can defeat their team, which isn't playing by the rules. Thank you.
Congressman, thank you for being here.
Thank you, sir.
And thank you to all of my neighbors, my good neighbors who are here today too. Nobody knows me because I'm just kind of just one of those guys in the background, much like our previous speaker who is a little shy about speaking. I've never spoken publicly before, so
you're doing
please
great.
Bear with me.
Let's give him a round of applause.
I love you guys, I do, and that's why I'm here. I've got an idea.
Yes, sir.
I was thinking about coming here tonight and telling you about how my liberties and my security have been stripped away systematically. And I don't know what next week is going to bring for me. If you don't see me around, maybe try El Salvador or, please look for me. I would appreciate it. But I decided no, because I had an idea of how we can address this problem as Americans in the best traditions of American democracy, and that is to confront every Republican all the time. Don't let them get away with the lies. Don't let them get away with the cheating. Follow them at the airport, in DC, in the committee rooms. Bring your signs, bring your voice, be Americans, and stand up, because our government can't fix itself, because it's a government of the people and by the people. And that means us. We have to take the power. And to do that, I came up with an idea to do that. I don't think we can wait for the next election either. I think what's happening is perilous right now, and I know it is for me. So my idea is, again, to force the Republicans to face what they're doing, face the people. And I think the way that we do that is we call on them, we give them two questions. One, will you resign? Two, if they won't do that, and we know they won't, the second thing is would you distance yourself from identifying as a Republican? Would you choose any other party in the world and not call yourself a Republican anymore, not caucus with the Republicans anymore in the House or the Senate or any other level of government?
I appreciate it, sir, and I love your fighting spirit. Here's what I think. We only need 3 of them.